everyone, it's Rose. I hate this.
Hi.
And that's Pix. And
Hi, everybody.
welcome to the third episode of Rose's Ranting. That's been a long time coming.
Rosé and Ranting, I have my mug.
I just have a bottle of diet green tea.
Mine is hot wild berries from Tetley. And it smells like blueberries and blackberries.
Nice.
The summer berries is more my favorite, but I do like this one as well, and I need to finish the mug.
So my plan for tonight, which Pix and I have talked about for a month at least, has been talking about true crime on social media and issues and other such things involved with that. And of course, like right around the time that I mentioned this to Pix, like drama hit the fan in like the smaller true crime community here on YouTube. And it would have been great timing to do it then, but then I just was working and I just couldn't find it within myself to sit down and do this because, and I feel like true crime is still pretty heavy in the media right now with the Gabby Petito stuff going on. This probably isn't going to go up for another week after we film it at least, so God only knows if it'll still be relevant then, but true crime's always relevant, so.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that he's caught by then.
Oh, me too. Did you ever watch Dog the Bounty Hunter?
A million years ago, yes.
I used to love that show, and I think it's mostly because I wished I lived in Hawaii, but I also think it's I love really bad reality TV, like Dog the Bounty Hunter, or like, The Turtle Man and Gator Boys, like, and Billy the Exterminator, like, that was the reality TV that I wanted to watch.
Yeah, I watched Billy the Exterminator.
So Dog the Bounty Hunter was, like, up my alley. I remember college years just, like, binging it on Netflix and stuff. Loved it so much. But anyway, so on Twitter, baby Lisa, who's his daughter, is, like, giving updates. And, like, they have a canine unit out right now, like, in the area they think that Brian might be in. So, anyway, this is not an episode about that. But I want to talk about what made me fall in love with true crime. As a child, I loved true crime before it was trendy to love true crime. As a child, my mother and I would sit down and watch Snapped on Oxygen, like, all the time. Because they would do marathons, and you would just watch them. And I don't know why I find it so fascinating, but that was, like, my first introduction into true crime. And then it's been, like, Netflix docuseries, Amazon Prime docuseries, whatever I can find to watch. I bought Discovery Plus simply so I could watch their true crime stuff. How about you?
For me, it actually started earlier than true crime, but it was Andy Griffith's show and Ironside. How old am I? Oh my God. Oxygen Channel didn't even come until I was already like, wow. Yeah, I keep forgetting the fact that we're 16 years apart in age, so I'm like, what would she know? So then there was like the Raymond Burr, he did Ironside, and then there was Perry Mason.
Yeah, well, if we're gonna talk about like crime shows we used to watch with like my grandmas, different on each side, I would watch like Murder, She Wrote, Matlock.
I love them. Matlock is my thing. That's my jam. Andy Griffith, anything.
What was the other one?
Seriously.
Oh, obviously Walker, Texas Ranger.
I never watched it.
You haven't? I don't really.
Clint Eastwood makes me creepy. Or no, Chuck Norris. That's who it is. Like, it just, he's creepy with the beard. Like, I don't know. It's just cringy for me. I know people.
I also used to love watching like Law and Order SVU. So, I mean, I guess I don't think about that as true crime, but makes sense as you like. It's an obvious transition from watching those to like being into true crime. Yes. So
it's the gateway. Yes. It's the gateway. If they're gonna say marijuana is the gateway, then fine. You know, Matlock is the gateway. Like, yes. I loved Matlock so much because it was one of those times that when my mom was living at the house, it would be a Tuesday night thing because they had AA and the father figure had to go in, like, he was custodian. So he had to open the school up and blah, blah, blah. So everybody could go into the gymnasium. And Tuesday nights was basically like, we're free of him for a night. So it was great. So I was in charge of making the popcorn, and I always had like a big water jug for each of us. And then like the sister wanted lots of straws. I didn't. I usually ended up with popcorn and water everywhere. And yeah, it was fantastic. So we would eat Matlock and watch popcorn. And yeah, that's staying in there. Absolutely loved that show. As far as true crime itself, I grew up being around a lot of very, very vicious, bad people. And one of the first people that really like caught everybody's awareness was Paul Bernardo when he was, so that was all going on in Scarborough, and I was living in Peterborough at the time. And I was going to school with, like, I was in college with individuals who went to school with Leslie Mahaffey and here, I usually say it the other way around, Kristen French and Leslie Mahaffey. Sorry, there. So that was like what really kind of solidified it with me. And that was when I was like, I can't do social work. I can't do what I'm like in. I can't.
Yeah.
So that was when I kind of like took a step back and was like, I'm not finishing this. And then fell in with a whole bunch of other really bad people. But I fell in love with Anne Rule and William Deal and like the Primal Fear and different ones like that. They're taken from actual stories. So that when I got to CSI and Criminal Minds and all of these other ones, I'm like, I know that these are going to be like stories. And since YouTube has started doing those free documentary ones and stuff, how could I not just sit there? Like, I binge watch, like, there's 911 Real First Response. Like, there's tons of them. Mm-hmm. That chapter is one of my favorite YouTube channels. He is Irish. He winks at the end every week, and it's just for me. Screw everybody else. It's all for me. Like, he brings levity to it. It's fantastic. And then there's like Coffeehouse Prime, and of course the beautiful The Behavior Panel. Mwah, 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 mwah. I love them so much. I will get you addicted to them.
We're working on
it. Sorry.
So
yes,
I want to talk. The reason that I thought this would be a good episode for a discussion of rants, if you will, is because my brother doesn't get it. My brother is like, why on earth? Like, he feels that people are using other people's stories and tragedies to profit them. And for other people's entertainment. So if you sit down and think about it and break it down in like general terms, that's accurate in my opinion. But I think there's a way to do it that not only benefits you as the entertainer, if you will, and the audience, but also benefits the people whose stories you're telling, as well as just like any what's the word I'm looking for? Like
general education.
Education, but also like charities. Like, people bring awareness to charities. Yeah. People raise money for certain charities. So like, the first oh my God, that's a word. The first true crime podcast that I got into was My Favorite Murder. And I know for a while they were raising money for Mariska Hargitay's charity that helped pay for rape kits to get processed, because I guess they collect rape kits and then they sit there.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that. Yeah.
And then you have the one that I listen to most regularly now is Crime Junkie, and they a lot of times focus on cases of lesser known cases. So like, they're trying to get the story out there for like like missing and murdered Indigenous women and like the African Americans, like the people that don't get pushed by the media because media sucks. So they're like getting those lesser known stories out that weren't covered to like bring attention and awareness to them. And a lot of times Crime Junkie focuses on unsolved ones so that if there's like info that can be brought by people listening, like, you know, they can throw in tips or whatever. And another one that does kind of the same thing is Jensen and Holes the Murder Squad, which is the same company that My Favorite Murder works under, however that works. But they talk a lot about unsolved cases and like hope to get tips from people like listeners that are watching, and they use like the internet sleuths or whatever they are now, the citizen detectives, to help solve stuff. So I think there's a way, that way is the right way, where then you have, so what happened on the YouTube drama side of it is that there's like smaller YouTube creators that tell stories about true crime or like talk about active cases. Like they're talking about cases that are happening here and now. And like one channel, I guess, contacted a family member and was like in contact with a family member of one of these cases. And like eventually the family was like, you're not helping us, you're just helping yourself. Like you're telling this story to make profit and make money for yourself. And so, like, I feel like it becomes a very slippery slope, and it's a very fine line. And I know that a way that, like, My Favorite Murder kind of, like, got away from doing that was, like, talking about, like, really, really old crimes.
Yeah.
And, like, cases. And I feel like Bailey Sarian, who's another YouTuber that does it. Her. Yeah, I love her, too. Yeah. She is, like... If I could look like anybody in the world, I would want to look like her. She is like, if like middle school Rose, that's what middle school Rose wanted to look like. I love her aesthetic in every way. Like I can't
she even. She is so adorable. Yeah.
She's beautiful. Like anyway.
And goofy. She's goofy as well, which makes her even more endearing. Yes. And I'm like, you were the one that turned me to like watching her, and I was like, I need to reciprocate. Go watch the behavior panel. They're all adorable in their own way.
I try to get on, and like everything recently has been Gabby Petito, and I'm like, I've consumed so much of that, I can't right now, but I will get there. But she talks about like really old cases too, like 1800s, like old stuff. So that's another way I think that is a good way to go about it, is like still getting the true crime story out there, but it's like nobody, you know, everybody's dead. You know what I mean?
There's a channel, and I don't watch it very often, and I can't remember which one it is. It was featured on a Netflix documentary, and it was like really, really short, a little clip from them. And what it is they are a group of like Interpol retirees who are expats in different countries. So like some are down in the Caribbean and some of them are now in Canada and that kind of thing. And what they're doing is they're researching the information that they know they still have access to. And they're kind of like uniting different stories from like people that are, somebody was murdered in France in 1962. Well, we had the idea that that person moved to Colorado in 1963 kind of thing. So like they've been living under a different name, and that it is really cool to see that. And like I said, I only saw a little tiny bit of it. I wish that I could remember who it is. Coffeehouse Prime does new and like solved and unsolved. And my favorite thing about Coffeehouse Prime is he is genuinely more concerned about bringing awareness that this even happens than it's not a salacious thing. Like, again, that chapter, he adds like a little bit of, he makes it a little bit more palatable. Not that true crime is palatable. I'm just saying like, he's able to put a balm on it so that we're informed, but he's not taking the mickey for everybody. Like, it's happening. He's explaining the story, that kind of thing. He's just had an updated one about the McStay family, and there's been a bunch of others recently. But I love the cold cases, because it gives people an active chance.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why John Walsh did America's Most Wanted for
Right.
so many years. He wanted to bring awareness. And there's another whole side of it is like the prison life, which gives a totally different view of things.
I can't watch those.
See, and those are the ones that are just like, wow, like the world's toughest prisons. And there was a guy named Raul who did 11 years hard time. And then they realized he was not only innocent, he wasn't even there. And they never believed him. And so he did 11 years of hard labor. So he decided he was going to start going around the world. He would live in the prison for up to a week with people who are like, there are 73 people in this room. It's meant to have 4 people.
Yeah.
Like, he lived in those squalid conditions and like horrendous abuse and like nearly getting himself shanked a bunch of times. Like, that's the compelling kind of side of it that I think brings awareness to the world, because we have this very austere kind of clinical, sterile view of what prison systems are. And the people who get, I'm smiling, but I'm not doing this intentionally. It's the people who get really, really pissy because they're in and they're not allowed to have like wood burning equipment in their cell. They're not allowed to have Dremel tools. And then they call that inhumane. And like, that's 73 people are in this room that is meant for 4. You
Right.
don't get a Dremel kit because you can hurt people with it.
Right.
Think this through. This is like first world problems for prisoners. Like, I'm sorry, that was me going off, but that was a tiny little rant, but there we go. And I'm like, not that these people that are in the 73 that are crammed into one place, I'm not saying they're guilty, they're not guilty. There are certain ones that have a completely different wing because of what they have done.
Right.
Paul Bernardo would be in that group over there, which is right next to the incinerator. Nobody's gonna miss you.
Well, and then ABC did a show about the lady that does the genetic genealogy and like showed the cases that she solved by doing genetic genealogy. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Not First Responders. There's another one that does it. The New Detectives on YouTube. And what they're actually doing, like, it's so weird to see them go back, and it's like 2002, and you're like, how does that look like 1960? Like, how much has life changed since 2002 when DNA was like, no, we can get this within 6 months. I'm like, can't we get it in like, CSI can do it in like 10 minutes. What are you guys doing?
Right.
I realized, yeah, the magic of television.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think that's kind of funny that, and yeah, I think it's amazing to educate people.
Yeah. I think it's made me realize, well, that could send me on another rant. But it's definitely educated me on things to improve my safety, I guess. Although, let's talk about how my mom is so paranoid that, like, these are already things that I probably would have picked up on normally without being involved in true crime. But it's just like, and a lot of the female hosts of these true crime podcasts talk to the women of their audience and just be like, it's okay to be rude to people. Like, if you get a bad feeling, like, not everyone has to like you. Be rude if you need to be rude to get away from somebody, and like, blah, blah, blah. So it's definitely bringing awareness and like educating, especially women, I feel like, about how to be safe and you know, you don't have to put yourself in a bad situation to make someone else happy and yada, yada, yada. And obviously the same goes for men. I just happen to watch or listen to true crime directed at women for the most part.
All I was going to say is, have you noticed how in recent, like the last 5 years, they're normalizing the word no? Have you noticed, like, it's not really an empowerment thing. It's just the word no is being said and actually being listened to. I don't know if that's in the wake of the Weinstein and the Cosby and all that stuff, but you might have to bleep their names. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I don't know if I've really noticed that, but I think as myself trying to be a better version of myself and like trying to take care of my mental health, I've had to learn how to say no and like not care about what's gonna happen if I say no. You know what I mean? Like not in like that way, but in like a in a we need you to do all this extra work kind of way. And me like setting boundaries, I guess, would be a better way of saying what I'm trying to say. I think the takeaways that I wanted to get out in this episode was mostly I can understand the perspective of people using true crime for profit, and it's not helping the people, like they're using people's stories for profit, not necessarily helping the people whose stories they're telling. But I think that true crime, from the time that I started like listening to podcasts to now, has kind of evolved and transformed into a way that they're trying to take that into consideration, and they're using their platforms for charities, for bringing more awareness to less known cases, for bringing more awareness to cold cases, for bringing more awareness to cases that are actively happening that people can call in tips about that may not know otherwise. Like a lot of the tips from the Gabby Petito case is like some people found out about it through TikTok and like had leads, like had info. So I think true crime on social media has been helpful in a lot of cases, but I can also understand how it's harmful, and I think that we need to not encourage that, especially like these people that are using it on TikToks for like TikTok trends and trying to make it funny and stuff. Like I think that there's a line that's being crossed that shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I think there's a way to do it right, and that's the way that it needs to be. And if you want to listen to true crime, listen to true crime, because I think it's very educational. Like literally this week's episode of Crime Junkie was about someone sneaking in through open garages and, you know, doing not great things. So now I'm like, crap, I not only need to shut my garage door, but I also need to lock the door from my back door to my garage, which I used to not do. And now I'm like, I'm going to do that from now on.
Right. So, yeah, like there is a side of social awareness that I like back in the 70s when I hatched, there was the amount of things that were like just completely ignored. Like I didn't have a seatbelt in the car in the first two cars that I was in. And then there was little stickers that said fasten your seatbelt. And I would sit there in the back seat and I'd be fasten URC at BL. Like that was, the sad thing is that came so easily to my brain. But like there's so many things that have changed. And I think that social media is going to change how justice exists, because now they've got this trial by media is one of the big things. And that's a big part of it, is going back to like the O.J. Simpson trial. That was like 92, 93 era. And that was huge news. And it was so amazing to go into a restaurant or anything and hear people talking about it. Like, how could he be? He couldn't possibly do it. He was an actor. He was a football player. Like, those things don't exclude them.
Right.
Like, I think in the wake of that, there are so many things, including Kim Kardashian, that have become socially recognized.
Right.
There are bonuses and negatives on both sides of the trial by justice. That would actually be great. The trial by society and social media, and people who are now asking for their trials to not be held where they are. Like that's happened before, like Mississippi burning and different things. They're trying to find people who are possibly going to side with them. And trial by media is like, Stephen Avery is a perfect example of this.
Yeah.
Like making a murderer. Like that's friggin' heartbreaking.
Right. Well, but
and it's its own thing.
I feel like you're also potentially putting the wrong people in jail. Like, if the media focuses on one person, and then, like, that's, everyone already has an opinion about whether or not they did it or not, and, like, it's just, I don't know, it's probably not helpful to the justice system.
Yeah, like, we don't know. I mean, we can assume, but what if Laundrie is found, like, next week? And everybody has put all this pressure on saying, oh, no, he's obviously still alive. Well, we don't know that right now.
Right.
Like, we assume that he is because, you know, well, we assumed that Gabby was as well. And I will say that there is a negative side to all of this because of the fact that there are so many Indigenous women who are not being called out publicly to be searched for.
Right.
I believe it's either tomorrow or, I think it's tomorrow, September 30th, is Orange T-shirt Day here in Canada. And that's for the Indigenous women who have gone missing and been found in horrific situations. That's for another day if you want to do that. There is an outcry of, and again, this is going to sound really bad. Probably want to take it out. But the one white girl gets all the coverage.
Right.
And there's currently 18 women who are Indigenous who have been gone, like, who have disappeared in the same amount of time.
Well, yeah.
Not even one of their names.
And that's, I think, in the end, that's one of the biggest issues that we have, and why true crime podcasts and people talking about true crime have to exist, because you have to have those people that are going to bring awareness to these lesser known cases of minorities and any kind of minorities, whether it be religious, genetic, is that the word? Ethnic? Is that the word?
Ethnic, genetic, yeah.
LGBTQ, like, all of those things get pushed back because the pretty blonde girl gets pushed forward, and that's how it's always been, and that's always been the major complaint, I think, by most people talking about true crime, is that you have to, if you're going to talk about this, we also need to talk about all of these other things. Like, they have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to talk about things. Why not push those as well? And I think that that's obviously, I think a lot of social change has happened in the U.S. over the last year, but we obviously have leaps and bounds to go, because this is like case in point what's happening right now.
Yeah, and, like, not to put too fine a point on it, but Ferguson, like, everything that was happening there. I walked past, when I was living in Staten Island, I walked past where Eric Gardner was murdered. Every single day that I went to the gym, I physically stepped past that cement block, sidewalk block. And there was, like, it was like a plastic case that had, like, teddy bears and stuff like that the family would receive. And then they would just update it every month. And it brings a whole new level of, like, a new level of gravity when people just talk a little quieter in that section of Staten Island. And there are other people that have been in, like, obviously there's heinous crimes that are happening all over. When it is something like Black Lives Matter, that should not be silenced. And then the things that are getting, like, poo-pooed and, you know, silenced are the things of somebody calling other people to action to say, hey, let's riot in the streets. And that's acceptable?
Right.
Oh, okay, because it's not, it's okay because it's this demographic, not this demographic.
Right.
Like, and I totally agree with you. I honestly believe that more education and more understanding of the fact that we're all the friggin' same, okay? I will even admit human status for a moment. I will deny it later, but we'll claim human status for a moment, that we bleed the same color, we cry the same tears, we sleep, we have to eat, we have to nourish ourselves, we have to educate ourselves, or we just starve to death and die. Like, there are things that we need to do as animals in this planet. Why does the melanin content have anything to do with it?
Right. Well, and I think that the true crime aspect of all of it, I think having the podcasts or the YouTube channels or whatever bring more attention to these things, but also let people know that they're not being talked about in the media. And
yes.
Like, for example, like sex workers are being targeted because they know that it's not going to get forefront attention from anybody, if that makes sense.
Yes. Roger Ramirez.
Yeah. So that being made, like, being brought attention to, that's not a sentence. Those things being brought to people's attention helps educate people to be on the lookout for those things, as well as help protect those communities, as well as just be like, yo, media. Like, if more people could just be like, we want to talk about this, not just this, right. I think that that's helpful in some way.
And I'll also touch back on, without giving this deplorable troglodyte any kind of credit, I'm not going to say its name. I will say that individual accosted, and I'm using that word so you don't have to, like, bleep everything out, because I know that there's certain words you can't use, accosted viciously in an alley. And because that person was on a swim team for the university, they got lenient sentence of, I think, 8 months, where the max sentence could be 25 years. Right. And if we're going to talk about bringing things to, like, out into the open, we need to identify the fact that accosting people, rape kids, all of these things that are, like, really actually toxic, shitty things that are getting months instead of more. And you have somebody who had less than a gram of marijuana who is doing 35 years to life for that 3/4 of an ounce or 3/4 of a gram or whatever. Right. Like, he had 3 joints, and there's a guy that was on death row for it. Like, why? I don't do it. I don't need to do it. This person actually did stuff. They were literally caught doing stuff.
Right.
Why are they getting everything? Oh, that's right, because their daddy pays extra money, and there's a whole new school wing. Oh, look at that.
Well, and there was, like, a TikTok video that Mike showed me of, like, this little kid that was talking about the justice system and how the rich don't go to jail because the rich can afford to pay for good lawyers and all of those things. So, I mean, there's a lot of problems. And will they ever get fixed? I don't know. But I think that true crime being more available to consume for everybody is helping bring attention to those problems that the justice system has, at least in America, and hopefully working to fix those problems.
I know that reparations are not going to be enough. Like, and for one other aside, the fact that Canada and the US both have to still, not only just the Indigenous people, and that is its own story, but the fact that the internment camps, David Suzuki was born in the internment camps. Like, Canada knows David Suzuki. David Suzuki is, like, naturalist, biologist, everyest kind of awesomest guy. Like, he is the voice of so many things. And, I mean, even George Takei was sent to one of these internment camps. Why is nobody talking about this? Like, I understand Pearl Harbor, yes, I get it. You guys wanted to do your thing. You don't round everybody up. Like, this is not being taught in school, which goes back to the whole thing of we have at our fingertips so much knowledge that it's not just the ones who win get to write the truth or get to write history. Everybody gets to see it as it's happening.
Right.
Like, that is more palpable than anything that Plato or Aristotle, like, it's amazing. And at the same time, it's terrifying because we do have access to know what kinds of things happen, that there is a dark web and there are really shitty dark things that happen. And sadly, those things need to be dragged out into the light. Just going to say Epstein, and I'm just going to leave that there because, yeah, bad people do bad things.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. If there's anything that you know of that you want us to rant about, let me know. This is going up in the Vlogtober series, so happy October, whatever day it is. Thank you guys for sticking around and watching.
Like, share, subscribe.
I'm going to leave Pix's channel linked down below. She's putting up more videos now. I'm watching you make Funko Pop versions of me and my husband currently. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in seeing more of these or more of this face, or if you have ideas for videos the two of us can do, subscribe, let us know. My Twitter and Instagram will be linked down below. Thank you again for watching. What?
I was gonna say I'll leave my Instagram as well.
Yeah, I'll put pics.
But I'm private, so yeah, I can go public. That's fine.
You don't have to go public if you don't want to.
I can't believe that we're having this. I'm so sorry.
Pix's Instagram may or may not be linked down below. Anyway, thanks for watching.
Sorry, guys.
See you guys next time.
Bye.